Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be ranking every movie that I saw in 2020 from the worst to the best. And the reason I'm ranking every single movie I saw is because I only saw 13 movies in 2020. So there's just no point in me doing a top 5 worst, because I really actually don't hate any of these movies. I think they're all fine or great. So there's not a lot of bad movies on this list. Also, comment down below what your picks are for the best movies or the worst movies of 2020, and tell me what you think of my list. And remember, this is just my list. It's not correct. There's no critical standpoint on this list. It's just my list, just my personal opinion. Also, you're going to see some movies on here that I gave a higher grade to, below movies that I give a lower grade to. So it's just going to be my personal opinion. And if you want to check out my full in-depth thoughts on these, make sure you hit the playlist right up there, where I get really in-depth with these movies. And I actually only reviewed 10 of these, so there's going to be 3 movies on here that I have not reviewed. But with all that said, let's get started. So coming in at number 13 is going to be Scoob. Scoob was a very disappointing pick for me because I was really looking forward to it. I'm a really big fan of the earlier ScoobyDoo series and movies and stuff like that. Even the live-action ones I have a bit of fun with. And this movie is just all around dull, in my opinion, because they made it like the most 2020 Scoob movie you could have done. It's like very modernist kind of thing. And I like the animation, actually. I think the animation is quite good, and I like the way that they did the character designs and all that. And I actually really like the first 20 minutes of this movie because it felt like classic ScoobyDoo. But the rest of the movie feels like a superhero movie, and it just doesn't match with ScoobyDoo. There's no real mystery here, and it just doesn't feel like ScoobyDoo. I like some of the character interactions between Shaggy and Scooby. There's some good classic, like Scooby-Doo, kind of like Easter eggs. And there is some stuff where it does relate back to Scooby-Doo, like some stuff that Shaggy and Scooby do that it feels like classic Scooby-Doo, just in a different way. But I just really wanted this movie to be a classic mystery film that was a classic Scooby-Doo movie, and it just really wasn't that, so I was kind of disappointed by this pick. Coming in at number 12 is going to be Greyhound. Now, Greyhound is one movie that I have not reviewed yet, and it's basically a movie about Tom Hanks is a captain, and they have to transport this convoy or something over the seas, and some Nazi submarines come in the way, and they have to fight them. And I thought Greyhound was okay. I didn't love it personally, and I'm going to get into my issues, but I think Tom Hanks is good. He's a likable lead. This movie looks pretty good. It has pretty good CGI and everything. And I think the sound design is the best thing about this movie. It's superb. It's great. I love the sound design. They really nailed it with that. But the Tom Hanks character, he really doesn't have much to him. He's got a wife at home, and he's Christian, and he doesn't eat. And that's basically all you kind of get from his character. He does care about his men and stuff, so he's a likable lead, but he doesn't have much depth or backstory behind him. Neither do any of the other side characters. Like, he's literally the only character I remember in this movie. And also, one thing that comes to mind whenever I talk about this movie is repetitiveness. This movie feels very repetitive. Like, the same action sequence constantly happens. Like, the sub will come up, and then the sub will try to attack the battleships, and either they'll take down the sub, or the sub will take down a battleship, and then boom, goes again. Another sub comes up. And it feels very repetitive, and eventually it actually just got boring. But Greyhound is a fun enough war film. It just feels like it's like an episode of a war series just stretched out to a full-length movie, which it doesn't work for me. Coming in at number 11 is Wonder Woman 1984. Wow, this was a disappointing pick for me because I love the first Wonder Woman. Absolutely just love that movie. I think it's great, and I was really looking forward to this movie. And if you guys want to hear my full thoughts, please go check out my spoiler review. I get into way in depth in there. Every issue I have with the movie, I get into depth right there, so go check that out. But Wonder Woman 1984 is so disappointing, but it also has like some really good qualities about it at the same time. It's an odd pick for me. The stuff I really liked about this movie was all the casting. I really liked Gal Gadot, obviously. She's great in this role. She's awesome as Wonder Woman. She's very charismatic. I like Chris Pine because he's very funny, and and him and Gal Gadot have a very good connection with one another. And I also really do like Kristen Wiig's acting abilities. She can be funny, and she's okay in this movie, but I like just her presence. And I like Pedro Pascal. So the casting, I think, is really good. The story is just so clunky, though. I mean, I like Wonder Woman's story arc, but there's just a lot of weird things here. Like, the way they brought Steve Trevor back as a conscience of someone else is just so odd. And then actually in one scene, they sleep together. So Gal Gadot is knowingly sleeping with this guy that she knows Steve Trevor is controlling him, but she doesn't see Steve Trevor. So it's weird. And this movie also pushes a very feminist message up your ass, so I don't get why that scene was in the movie. So it's just, I don't know, it's mixed bag for me, and there's huge plot holes at the end. And it's just overall, it's a very disappointing sequel. So, I don't know. It's okay. My grade has actually dropped a bit on this movie, but it's okay. I would watch it again. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Underwater. Underwater was another movie on this list I have not reviewed yet, and I think it's actually a very good tense monster movie. These researchers are down like 7 miles below the surface of the water, and their station gets like condensed or whatever, and it starts malfunctioning, and they have to walk from one to another on the ground level. And what scares me the most about this movie is the fact that they're 7 miles below the surface of the ocean, which just terrifies me, and then the monsters add that extra layer, so this movie was actually perfect for me. It's a nice, tense ride. It just didn't actually have much that I could latch onto. It's very plot-driven, so you don't really have any character development whatsoever. There's some very good tense sequences. I like the concept quite a bit. The acting all around is really good. Kristen Stewart is pretty good in this movie. TJ Miller's pretty funny here. And there is some nice crafted scenes, but speaking of the scenes, like when they're actually on the ground level, it's really hard to see what is going on. It's really hard to actually pinpoint what's happening because it's so dark, and I get it, it's dark down there, but you should light it up for the audience to see. So that was overall kind of disappointing. And the movie just didn't have enough budget, I suppose, to pull this movie off, so I think you give this movie to a bigger director, bigger budget, and make it like just kind of a bigger film, and you might have had a better movie. Coming in at number 9 is going to be The New Mutants. This is the last movie I did not review on this list. The people that I've talked to hated this movie. Like my brother's friend hated this movie, but I actually enjoyed it. I think The New Mutants is some fun. It has issues that I won't deny, but it's honestly not as bad as I thought it would be. I like that this movie is different. It's not like the same as every X-Men movie, so it feels different, and I like that. I also like each individual set of characters. I think they're both interesting in their own ways. The acting ability is actually pretty good. I didn't mind the romance in here, like the fact that our main character, she's gay, and I didn't mind that romance. It was okay. I feel like it wasn't necessary. But overall, I think that the characters are fun, their powers are pretty cool, and I like the concept here. But this movie feels like a pilot episode to a TV show that we're never going to get, because it ends like that. It basically starts off, and they get sent to this facility, they all figure out their powers, and then they finally escape from it, and then it's just done. Like, it could have continued on that with a sequel, but we're never going to get a sequel. And also, characters in here, the arcs don't feel complete. So it also feels like a pilot episode there, because it feels like they got a quarter way and then we're never going to see the rest. Like the one character I could say that has a full arc in this movie is the girl that can go through dimensions. She has a nice, good character arc, and she's probably my favorite character in the film. But overall, I think The New Mutants is a fun enough X-Men movie, but I just wish that it was more like a TV show or a movie that we could get further sequels on. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Unhinged. Unhinged is the Russell Crowe, like, road rage type film in the summer that came out, and it's just, it's a very fun film. I think that Russell Crowe is very good in this movie. One thing I really liked about it is that he doesn't care if cops kill him, he doesn't care if he's seen, so he will just kill you broad daylight at any part of the day, kill you anywhere he wants. So I really enjoyed that aspect to it as a layer of tension. But the movie is so unbelievable that you kind of have to just roll with it. And I could roll with it most of the way. But some stuff that happens in here, like there's this one scene where she's in her car and Russell Crowe's like ramming her, and there's like cars around her and they're all just on their phones. All the people, and she's like banging on the windows. I'm like, you would obviously see that, you idiots. You would obviously see that. That doesn't make any sense. So overall, I think this movie is a very fun blockbuster, kind of popcorn movie. I like Russell Crowe's performance. I liked our main character. It's a fun little movie. It actually has very good pacing, but there's just some unbelievable moments that it's not a very good movie, but it's very watchable. Coming in at number 7 is going to be 2067. This is a movie that I think I was the only one on earth to ever see. Nobody really else is talking about this movie. I saw it on TV, I'm like, oh, what's this? And the trailer looked pretty good, so I checked it out, and it's actually pretty good. This movie has some very negative responses by critics, but I enjoyed it. It had some very cool sequences in here, and I like this story actually quite a bit, where he has to go into the future because he receives a message, but when he gets there, he he knows that's not actually the case, and everything starts playing out in the wrong way. And I actually really like the way the story is told, and I think that's an interesting concept. Especially, I liked our characters. They're actually well fleshed out here, which is really enjoyable because I like it when I can latch onto my character. It's actually well shot for a low budget film, and I really love the score in here.
Whoever sent the message, we need to find them.
But the acting, I think, is a bit too pouty. Like, they're kind of just like, oh, I'm to shoot you. Like, it's just, they're not selling an emotional performance here. And it goes for a big emotional ending. And while on concept, on paper, it really works, but on execution, it doesn't really work. So I think, again, with this movie, give it to a bigger studio, bigger budget. I feel like this movie could have been really good. For me, number 6 is going to be Happiest Season. Now, Happiest Season was a movie that came out like a month ago, and it starred Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, and basically, Mackenzie Davis's character hasn't come out to her parents that she's gay, and she brings Kristen Stewart along, and she's her girlfriend, and they have to like kind of just avoid, like, you know, doing stuff. And it's actually a pretty fun Christmas movie. It has a heartwarming message upon that coming out to your parents is hard, which I wouldn't know about because I'm a straight guy, so I have no idea, but I imagine it's hard for some people to do, so I actually really enjoyed going along with the journey. I think that Dan Levy is a very good scene stealer in this film. He's very funny. He has actually a good arc in this film. He has a good backstory message that he gives along. And I like the heartwarming stuff in this movie. I think that it's also very funny. I like all the characters, but some of the characters are actually all a bit unlikable, especially Mackenzie Davis. She has like the big emotional push, but she does stuff that I just think are kind of unlikable. Characters just kind of meet up out of nowhere, and it has to happen for the sake of the story. And it's just, again, unbelievable, and it goes for a ground level story here, so it doesn't match for me. But overall, I think that Happiest Season is a very good Christmas movie. It's just one that I'll watch every Christmas, and I won't really watch any other time of the year. But overall, I think it's pretty good. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Tenet. Now, Tenet I thought was a very good action film. It has some good issues for me, but overall, I think it's actually, it has some very good action, and it has some very good characters and everything. Did you not hear me? Okay, let me try again. Tenet is a very good action movie. It has some very good characters, but the story is a bit clunky. You can't hear me? Okay, let me try again. You can hear me now. Great. Okay. So Tenet was a very good action film. It has some very good performances in here, but the action is overall around beautiful. It's very well done. Christopher Nolan does great in camera work, how people are moving backwards and forwards. I may not get it, but it looks very cool, so okay. But the story is so confusing. I think it's overly confusing the way they did it, and also the exposition is so heavy-handed. There's just like so much of it in this one clump of the movie where our main character named the protagonist goes to one guy, then goes to another guy, then goes to a scientist lady, then goes to a girl, then goes to another guy, and they dump exposition every single time. And you have to be very smart, and you have to listen to it, and I just couldn't follow the film. But that doesn't undergo the action, which I think is great, and also the score. While I think it's really cool, it does make you have to listen a bit harder what the people are actually saying. But overall, I think Tenet's a good movie, but Christopher Nolan has to get back into like a very solid film that you can actually follow. For me, number 4 is going to be The Way Back. The Way Back, I think, is a very good sports drama. I think that Gavin O'Connor is a very good director. He's directed Warrior. I don't think this is as good as Warrior, but I think it's still a very good film. It has some great performances, especially from Ben Affleck. This is probably his best performance. And whenever it's handling his side of the story, like as a drunk and wants to find his way back, that's where I think this movie shines. Whenever it tries to go to the team aspect, I feel like it's a bit too cliche, and that's where my issue falls, is like the team is not really fleshed out that much. I think the basketball sequences are directed very well, very exciting, and I like the way the third act comes out here because he doesn't actually get to see his team play in the third act, which I think is a very realistic thing because he is a drunk and he is washed up, but he actually does have a redemptive arc, so I love the way they did that third act. Very realistic, very grounded, So overall, I do really like this movie. It has some very good messages about alcoholism, and I think that overall, The Way Back is a great film, just has a bit of cliche with the team aspect. Coming in at number 3 is going to be The Invisible Man. Now, The Invisible Man, I think, is a very good thriller. I say thriller, not horror, because I wasn't necessarily scared by this movie. I was mostly just on the edge of my seat. I love the way Leah Whannell directs this film. He always keeps the Invisible Man in the background, and you know he's there, but you can't fully see him. So I think the camera work is perfect in this movie. I think Elizabeth Moss is also very good. I like her friend, the cop. I think he has some very good funny bits. He's very likable, and I think he's a great character. And I overall think this movie is directed and acted very well. I like the story that comes along with it, and you have an emotional push with Elizabeth Moss' character when she's trying to escape from an abusive boyfriend. But I just don't believe that nobody else believes Elizabeth Moss. Like, I feel like if one person believed her, but like it was just not an important character, then I feel like that would be a lot better. But overall, I think this movie's pretty good. But there's one scene in here where Elizabeth Moss is having dinner with her sister. She's telling her all about the suit, and then a knife is like floating, slits her sister in the throat, and Elizabeth Moss grabs it, and I'm like, did nobody see the knife first of all floating? And then did nobody check the security cameras afterwards that the knife was just floating right there? So overall, I think The Invisible Man is a very great film, but it just has a bit of plot holes with the way that nobody sees The Invisible Man. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Extraction. Extraction was my favorite action film of the year. I loved it. The only issue I had with it is that they could have given more development to the kid character, because I really didn't care about him that much, but I love Chris Hemsworth here. I love the way this movie is directed. They took the stunt coordinator from Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, and he directs this movie. One action sequence in here where it's an 11-minute one take, and it's gorgeously done. Like, oh my gosh, it's absolutely incredible. Apparently the director was like on a car, and then Chris Hemsworth runs out of the car and like starts shooting at everybody, and then has a fight combat and stuff. Like, it's all very well done in here. The action is great. The story, while simple, is very solid. I think that this is a great action film, and I know that this director needs to do more movies. And I think he should maybe do the next John Wick movie, because he's a perfect fit for that. Coming in at number 1 is going to be Soul. Soul was such an incredible film. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies. It was, what a surprise. It was such a surprise. Like, I loved Soul. I love the characters. I love Jamie Foxx's character. Tina Fey's character was also great. There's some really solid comedy. There's one joke about the Knicks that I thought was awesome. I thought that was very funny. So overall, I think Soul was great. I love the story that goes along with it. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. And I was actually very surprised, because when I saw the trailers, I'm like, okay, that looks fine, but I didn't think it would be this great. So overall, Soul was such an incredible and immersive film. I basically had no issues with it. The villain is a bit weak, but he's not entirely a villain, so I can't really complain about that too much. So overall, I think Soul is an incredible movie. You should definitely go check it out if you haven't yet. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year. That's going to be so much fun to do. Also, hit that like and subscribe button. Tell me what your thoughts are down below of my list, or give me your list. Just comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Also, hit that like and subscribe button, and have a great day. Bye.